Learn English through Stories G27 PDF. Adapted and modified by Kulwant Singh Sandhu. Contents 1. Dara Shiko's Darbar, Part 3 2 Sportsmanship. 3. Grammar page. 1. Dara Shiko's Darbar, Part 3. And then watch how the regime runs with a great fanfare. It is surprising how Mr. Buzet, despite his wide experience, has made this obvious mistake. We do not say that the principles he has stated are wrong. Definitely not. They are indeed correct, but the truth of these principles does not mean that it can do away with all the necessities of action. Perhaps Sahib was dreaming of an ideal republic, a utopia. Perhaps he had forgotten that the existence of a utopia is limited to the dream, and it is useless to discuss it here. I want to ask Mr. Buzet whether God created the good along with the evil. His answer would be no. God has created the good in the absence of evil, and despite this, evil is blazing forth wherever one sees. In the first war between the good and the evil fought in the heavens, evil stood its ground. If one were to search through the world with the aid of a lantern, one would hardly find enough good people to populate a city. The whole world is full of evil. How is a regime supposed to survive in such circumstances unless it is forever ready to eliminate the trespassers, the vicious, the rebels, and the brutes? We pray to God that Buzet becomes an emperor of a nation, and by putting his words into action, he should provide a lesson for all the world to emulate as to how regimes can be established on ethical principles. Janvana. Who doesn't know that a father's duties are different from those of his son? It is the father's duty to nurture and educate his son by providing food, clothes, and other necessary items, while it is the son's duty to follow and be obedient to his parents. The duties of an emperor are totally different from those of his subjects. Welfare of the subjects and justice are the greatest duties of the emperors, while following the emperor and being thankful are those of the people. If a father beats his son, no one can blame the father, but if the son uses one strong word against his father, it is unacceptable and ungrateful behavior. If ordinary people take each other's things without permission, then it will be termed as unlawful grabbing or robbery, whereas an emperor's taking control of other realms is certainly his divine right. Expanding the empire by annexing new territories is the most important duty of the emperors, and looking after one's subjects is a vital part of it. Extending the state leads to increases in commerce, art, workmanship, and industries receive a welcome impetus. The patriotic fervor and zealous loyalty of the subjects also rises. Pride about the exploits of one's homeland swells. Aren't all these vital and gainful outcomes? Attributing some failures to the expansion of the empire is irrational. The names of Rome, Iran, and Greece did not fade away because they sought to expand their empires and liberate the oppressed people of other occupied territories, but because they themselves were beset with sloth, cowardice, indolence, lustfulness, and misdemeanors. They were affected by that law of nature known as stagnation. From the beginning of the world, there's a continuous struggle among all living beings which can be gainfully termed as the struggle for existence. In this fight for survival, the dominant and strong win, the weak and helpless are defeated, and their identities are erased from the face of existence as if they were a flawed image. This law equally affects the human and the beast. Hundreds of animal species were destroyed, and hundreds of large populations became nameless and traceless. After a particular period of time, decadence sets into the heart of each nation, and this eats into wealth and fame, courage and valor. Apart from this, the era speeds towards progress, and when a nation stays in place for a long time, it reeks uncontrollably of the bygone, also because pride in one's ancestors is all too human. Such a nation is unable to make changes in its rites and rituals, lifestyle, nature, and civilization which are in consonance with the present day. In the end, new nations with fresh fervor crop up. Old nations cannot compete with them. Does Mr. Busett wish that India should turn away from the pride in its ancestry, be counted as a coward, and be hunted by the new nations? Watch how this war for survival is being ferociously fought in Europe. Which empire is not trying hardest to expand its borders? Ships are being constructed. Dangerous journeys spanning hundreds of miles are being undertaken using them. Fortunes are being lavishly spent at the rate of petty cowries. The lives of men are being sold for a pittance. Why? All this is happening so that fresh settlements are founded and the commerce of the nation expands. With this, the wealth of that nation will multiply, and new tracts of land will be secured for its constantly growing population. In 2 centuries, the population of France will be quadrupled. Their policy of expansion will account for that. We are not saying that India is currently overpopulated. No, vast areas are still unpopulated. But sooner or later, this problem will crop up here too. Ever-increasing population is a natural norm which cannot be stopped by anybody. Why doesn't India also follow the European states and try for a better future? The future is considered more precious than the current state. The moment Dr. Bernier took his seat, all present showered praise upon him. The prince especially liked his speech. He immediately descended from the throne and gratefully clasped Bernier's hands. Meanwhile, Busett Sahib's heart was smoldering within. He thought that Bernier's recent challenge and prominence was a concealed insult to Busett himself, because Dr. Sahib seldom differed from him, and whenever he did, it was only to suffer defeat. But this time, the ball had remained in Bernier's court. When Henry Busett did not budge from his position even after a few minutes of silence, Padre Josret began thus: "Dear Sir, in my understanding, civilized nations should never think of their own benefit with conquests. Instead of showering wealth and prosperity upon their own country, and tying the bonds of compliance on other countries for purely selfish interests, through such dominion, they should be looking for the improvement of these defeated nations. Greek conquests not only augmented the fame of Greece, but they also led to the laying of foundations of knowledge, etiquettes, professions, industries, and fine arts in the defeated countries. Not just the whole of Europe, but the entire world has acquired education from Greek institutions. Greece taught the first political principles to the world. Philosophy and logic, astronomy, chemistry, medicine, music, all are offspring of this Greek mind. How could Europe have produced such incandescent light that dazzles the eye at Greece, not remove the dense clouds of darkness through the brilliance of its civilization? Greek history is full of sacrifices they made in order to civilize others. The Italian conquest bestowed upon the world a beneficence which can never be forgotten till the end of the world. It civilized the heathens and opened the doors of salvation and liberation for the world. Sirs, if you ask what is that beneficence, it is the spread of the Christ's mission across the world by Italy, eliminating darkness through the Christ's glory. Italy is the cradle whence sprang forth the water to quench the soul's thirst. Jahampana. Who says that the fame and mark of Italy is no more? Who says that the empire of Italy has been vanquished from the face of the earth? Today's world is a huge Italy, and all the empires of the world are radiating Italian glory. If in 200 BC the Roman Empire had reached its pinnacle, then today it has spread to the sky and the 4 directions. The principles of civilization and lifestyle, protocol, and etiquettes of each country prevailing in the world today have been forged out of the Italian factory. In fact, even the Greek influence on us is through Italy. Latin, which is the Italian tongue, is today as sacred language of the civilized nations of the world. In Asia, God has made India the treasure house of knowledge and manners, and since a while now, the invaluable jewels of the Christ have also been passed into its safekeeping. Hence, it is India's duty to carry these benefits over to other Asian countries. It should spend this treasure magnanimously and prove its generosity and nobility. If it reaps the benefit of this unlimited wealth all by itself, it will be known as self-centered, and the future generations will blame it for its timidity. If it drinks from the cup of civilization by itself and keeps other nations away from it, then it will be blamed for only catering to self-interests. Hence, it is India's duty that it makes Kandahar take a sip from the cup and believe in its heart that it has been enjoined by God to perform this duty. Undoubtedly, Kandahar will not take the sip easily, but that is because it has not experienced its taste yet and is unaware of its benefits. Now it is India's duty that it should get Kandahar to taste this singular delight and make it understand its benefits. Padre Josret had just finished his speech when the prince got down from the throne and clasped his hands in gratitude. Dr. Burnier's face glowed with excited delight, but Henry Buzet Sahib's face grew dull because he understood that there was no scope of his advice being accepted. What to talk of the Padre, who felt as if he had conquered the world, and why not, because till now no one had argued for Kandahar from this perspective. This was the intelligence of the Padre. Silence reigned for many minutes after this speech. Finally, the prince stated, "Dear sirs, I am grateful to all of you from the core of my heart that you made me happy with your wise speeches. When I had entered the Diwani cause, I was completely against any expedition to Kandahar. 2 consecutive defeats had dampened my resolve, and naturally I thought that this is how God had punished our eager misappropriation. But Dr. Bernier and Padre Josret's powerful and logical speeches have transformed my thoughts. It is my final decision that as far as possible, I will not relinquish Kandahar. I will make Kandahar a province of India, and this is nothing new. Sanskrit books bear witness to the fact that in olden times, when the star of the Aryans was at its peak, Kandahar was a province of India. Marriages were held between the kings of both the nations. King Dhritarashtra's wife, Gandhari, was the daughter of the Kandahar king. A coldness has crept between the 2 sisters, but today I will get them to embrace each other." After this speech, the court was dismissed. The end. 2. Sportsmanship. The match was between the 2 best teams. Both of them were 3-time winners of the national football tournament. Supporters of both teams had reached the stadium in abundance. Loud cheers reverberated in the stadium as Captain Dutta led his team, Bengal Tigers, and Captain Sharma his team, Punjab Lions, onto the football turf. The umpires made the call for the start of play. The first half was uneventful. No goals were scored. The crowd was becoming restless. After the 5-minute break and reprimands from the respective coaches, both teams entered the ground for the resumption of play. Dutta's boys scored the first goal, converting a penalty. The Lions disagreed, and an argument ensued between Sharma and the umpire. Their supporters ran onto the ground and created havoc. The security staff had a tough time clearing the ground. The game was suspended for a while. The coach of the Punjab team suddenly went up to the commentator's desk and announced, "Please maintain order. I apologize for my team's outburst." The umpire's decision was perfect, and the goal was scored. For a minute there was absolute silence in the stadium. This was followed by loud applause in appreciation of the honesty and sportsmanship of the coach from the players of both the teams and the spectators. The match resumed. Dutta and his men scored another goal, in the last minute of the match and won the title. They dedicated their victory to Mr. Deepak Sharma and sportsmanship. 3. Grammar page.